I'm back from Gamescom, and today I'm gonna give you a little brief insight of the event yesterday, hanging 50 meters above Cologne and playing actually Cities Skylines 2. I'm very excited to bring this to you, so well, let's just jump in and I'll give you a bit of my experience from the game, from the event, and what you can expect. So let's get into it. Little disclaimer before we get into my feelings and, the experience. This is not about the specific gameplay of the stream. I will talk about that though in a specific video. So we are talking about my whole experience, including the EA. I did have some early access before the stream to get used to the game, to have a bit of a feeling for it. And I think this is the exact reason why I want to make this video. I have read a lot of comments. I have actually gone through the entire live stream and read back the chat because the chat has been pretty insane and I wasn't able to catch all of it. So sorry for that, but it just has been very stressy up there in the air. Now, this game is a weird one because it feels so much better than it actually looks at the moment. It does look good. Don't get yourself blended too much by the footage you see. There's also latency issues and, some settings were not perfect. And there are some things, because it is a not ready version of the game. It's a pre-release version. It's a beta version where they are constantly improving things. But still, I just have to tell you, because I have played it for a couple of hours actually to get used to it. It feels so much more stable than the predecessor ever did. There is so much in the game that you don't see when you do not play it. There are games out there that just look fantastic and you can get a grasp of it if it's good or not immediately. But then there are games like that one where you try to judge it from the outside, but it's just not really possible and you do not do justice to the game. Let me just give you a couple of very distinct examples. Let's start with the road system. Granted, I would love to have moved it, but the way the road system works now is just so much more easy to understand. And even though it might seem I have been struggling, I didn't. I wanted to get things right. But if you have, if you're not hanging 50 meters in midair, surrounded by the city and Gamescom and everything, and you have a bit of time, it's very easy to use. You now have an easier way to get the nodes connected. You can actually go in and even select the lanes from which you want to make your junctions go. You can really pinpoint down if you want to have like crosswalks, if you want to have traffic lights, if you want to have certain elements. And the foundation of that system is so brilliant that in the future we can expect so many DLCs and included, maybe even for the finished version of the game. It is so good to see how easy it is once you get the grasp of it. It feels really fleshed out, I have to admit. And it's so much fun also to play now with all that knowledge and with all the new stuff in there. A second example, what is really good is the variety of buildings when you do build the city and the type of buildings. Not only that we do have two different segments now with Europe and the US in terms of style, you have a lot more variation in the buildings. They look a lot more realistic. They look really nice and it's really cool. It really feels almost like at the beginning of Cities Skylines 1 again, when it's all so exciting to see the city grow with all the additional services and stuff. That is something I throughoutly enjoyed. Then I have to say that the influence of weather and seasons is really notable. Like you can tell that there are more road accidents happening as soon as it's starting to rain or so. Really good. And also just in general, the whole road maintenance system feels good. I love the fact how you deal with the different type of buildings. Like you have a lot more service buildings now to deal with. And one thing that I also like is the fact that they have actually sized up things in a good way. Like buildings are now way bigger than they used to be and way more realistic. I do see that sometimes this is a little bit of a trade-off because you do have that bigger building, but you do, trade it in for customizability, if you will, for example, with the university and so on. But that shouldn't mean that there is not in the future an option to, do that differently again. But I have to say that the buildings itself look really gorgeous and they have some really good updates. And yes, something that has to be worked on is definitely the amount of props, or like we don't really have that many props anyway. But in terms of trees and bushes and maybe some rocks and so on and so forth, I have no info if that's all, if there's more. I didn't even ask, so so that might be that we have more, but given the fact that, this is a test version, I could see them not putting everything in. But just to give you the idea, that is really good. The other tools, like the terraforming and stuff like that, everything works, a couple of graphical glitches and stuff you shouldn't be too worried about, because they specifically said they're focusing on the core building mechanics, making sure the game runs stable and everything is good. So that feels good. And you just have to believe me at this point. I do understand that it's hard to see from the exterior, but again, it just really, really felt solid playing the whole thing. I didn't have a crash. I didn't have anything that was a problem. It felt really solid. The map is humongous. It's really huge once you play it. I didn't count how many tiles I went over, but you can see it also in the stream when I zoomed out to purchase some of the tiles. It is huge. It's a lot of fun, and it makes sense to even have, airports maybe connected on the map itself. So that would have been something that you would not do in the old game, because you could do that, but the distance is not really worth it. So but it really feels like there's a lot to do. Whether you want to play creative, you can already go in and flesh out your builds as much as you want. You have a lot of chances to use specific items in a different way. So for example, if you want to build, like as I tried in my build to do a airport city, you have a lot of things to do that now, and this is not really possible with the vanilla version of the old game, or even like without the DLCs or whatnot. So there is a lot of things that is really good. You have to imagine this is a beta. It's not the finished game, A, and B, it's the base game. There's so much coming, and I can only say that the experience was really, really good. It at the first minute didn't really look like a new game, but the more I played, the longer I played, it felt like a new game. But it felt like Cities, and I think this is a very, very good combination. It feels almost like they made exactly enough to make this game feel new and like Cities, and new enough to be better than everything you can have with the old game, but they still left room to improve dramatically in the future. I mean, there's always two hearts beating in my soul. I'm a gamer. I would have loved to have the perfect game from the first day, but my actual job is marketing, and I do know how that works, and you still have to leave room to sell a product, because they won't release Cities 3 in 2 years and make the money off of that. So it's just looking at that from a realistic standpoint, and I gotta say that makes things easier when you do that, trust me. Given that, the event itself was also very well executed. They have listened to all the feedback from the first stream, with the audio issues and stuff like that. So that was beautiful, and I love the fact that I was lucky enough to have the second session, which ran rather smoothly. So I really hope you guys enjoyed that. But I just wanted to give you a little overview of how I felt, and just like how I enjoyed playing the game. You can definitely be excited for what is coming in the future. As I said, I wasn't able to show everything obviously in stream. That was only like a bit more than an hour of time playing the game for you guys live, but as I said, there is so much more that I want to highlight, because playing the game feels just so much better than it looks maybe from the outside. There's just a lot that is really hard to showcase during a live stream like that. But yeah, just in general, props and big thanks again to Paradox for bringing me there. It's been a pleasure to do that. It's been a pleasure to give the opportunity, first of all, to me to play the game, which is great, but also to give it to you so you can have a look at it and just feel or see how that game's evolved in the meantime, outside of these dev diaries, which obviously I always pinpointed exactly to one specific feature. You've seen a bit of an overview now. So now it's time to ask some questions for you guys. So put some questions down below. I try to answer as many as I can. But as I said, there will be a specific video about the build I made, where I will go a bit more into detail, specifically in terms of building and stuff like that. But I just wanted to give you my feelings after that event, and I hope you guys enjoyed that one. So that's me. That's out. That's out. What? That's the end of the video. So, messing up the outro, always a good one. Have a good time, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much, and bye.